countdown would be. Yay, we are live. We are back. Hello, everyone. Creatives, community, kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. And today we end the week on our talk about law and order in our tabletop RPG games. And as was pointed out in the preamble, before we went live, and we're definitely going to go down this route, in the preamble, we talked quite a bit about the criminality and the especially the PCs being on the criminal side. So I thought we would combine our modern day and far future talks, putting the players far more into the law enforcement. And of course, because this is, we talk modern day to the far future, and modern meaning Renaissance period, Victorian period, all the way into intergalactic societies and such. We tend to find as society has gotten larger, bigger, more technologically advanced, socially advanced, economically, we start traveling further. The rules of our society, whether it's society's rules, we also have a lot more structured law enforcement. So I thought we would use that as well as a theme. So yeah, sorry, my chat window is closed up on me. There we go. So we've brought up now mind you, law enforcement, we're essentially talking about three generalized formats in the law enforcement region. We're talking about the enforcement of the law, your typical guards, police, security, bodyguards, mercenaries, detectives, investigators, and the technology that goes along with it, active and passive surveillance, security systems, those kind of things. Then the middle portion of that is the persecution of those laws, the procedures that go into enforcing law. You, after capturing a perpetrator, finding the evidence to accuse them, going through the rules of that society has established, instead of being, I mean, yes, you could do a Judge Dredd where you are judge, jury, and executioner, but we are talking judge and jury, where we're deciding the fate of the criminals, deciding how we should enforce those laws upon those criminals, and the people who break the laws, and the ramifications of ignoring the laws or becoming very draconian and over enforcing. And then we go into the penal system. What kinds of punishment are there? Are there the classic temporary jails, long-term prisons, mind wiping, chain gangs, forced labor, those kind of things, prison worlds. So we're talking about those three very generalized methods. So before we start the preamble, and of course we're going to talk now, especially in the far future, when you have anything from like cyberpunk or technically any sci-fi game, you could very easily run a law enforcement game. And law enforcement games could be, to me, they are a very quick and easy, possibly even episodic method to have a lot of different players. Let's say you have, I don't know, 10 players for your game. Mind you, they can't all show up at the same time, but you have 10 players of various different abilities to join into your setting. Maybe you're running something at a local college, or you're running something online or in a Facebook group or whatever have you. It's an easy way for people to jump in and out, right? There are many people that show up to work at different periods of time, and they clock in. So what an easy excuse to have players come in and come out of the game, even if they're in the middle of an investigation, right? Oh, I had a family matter. I had to have a doctor's appointment. I was called away on another emergency. Oh, I had to follow up on these other threads because I was doing my own investigation on this other, petty crime or whatever. So it's a really great method to have people jump in and out. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Pelora says, yeah, and it's all televised, hosted by someone named Judy, and the defendants and plaintiffs have more fingers and teeth. This is the future. Oh, you're so wrong, and you're so right. Has anyone checked out the new Jerry Springer legal show? If you don't know, yes, it is there. Someone pop a link into the chat, into the Discord chat. Yeah, and then for those who don't know, this weekend today is the beginning of Spooktober. The over at Fantasy Grounds. So if you want to get more information, if you join Fantasy Grounds College Discord server, you go over to the left, you see all the collegiates and classmates hanging around for their free classes and learning how to run Fantasy Grounds. But we are down in the boiler room in the DBJ chat and hanging out with all the cool kids. So yeah, so so absolutely. Omen's like, what? That's just me talking quickly. So, so for those who want to throw in like links or pictures or speak longer than the maximum number of 200 characters in the on YouTube, you can join the Discord and hang out there as well. And of course, we're simulcasting the audio. You can listen in on the Discord as well if you're having if you have bandwidth issues wherever you are absorbing this material. Okay, so back to the law enforcement. So having a law enforcement game, of course, it's very easy to have them become very episodic. That's also a bad thing in a way if there doesn't seem to be any permanency. So sure, you could do a series of one-shots that are all linked together. Is in a sense, all the player characters are part of this legal enforcement team, and each game or each series of like 1 to 3 sessions, it happens to be a simple investigation. But what you don't want to do is you might not want to lose the idea that this is just episodic and have a through line so that things that happened in the past with commanders leaving, people becoming injured, and other criminality spreading or being mitigated depending on where they're located, to still exist in that world. Maybe there's some kind of like gang warfare or organized crime or something that happens to be growing, whether it's citywide, continent-wide, or planetary wide. You can do that. Now, one thing I brought up that some players may balk at the idea of being on the side of the law because they may feel like they have to be buttoned down, new graduates of the arriving police force, but that's only on first glance, because if you take a look at any and all legal police procedural media that we have for us, any movie, television, books, all that kind of stuff, you're going to get a huge range of personalities and methodology and that kind of thing. And so allow players to be their own person, even if they are investigators or mercenaries or something. I mean, and of course, we've seen detectives dress and act anyway. They have the cool car, they carry the weapons, in their stuck in their pants the cool way. They have their cool little behaviors and things like that. And so player characters would be no different. And of course, we're talking tabletop role-playing games, so we can even turn the volume up even on that as well. So if we are going near future, cyberpunk, Shadowrun, or well into the far future where we're going interstellar, intergalactic, you're going to have a far wider range of the people that are involved in law enforcement as well. I'll say, like, you can have soldiers recruited from various alien races, if those alien races in your world, all part of one law enforcement team. There's an old mid-'80s Marvel comic called Alien Legion that I so much loved. It was a short-lived, but so had some great stories, and they were all aliens. It was like black bodysuits, and then they had like white padded armor over top of them, and there were all types of aliens from like insectoid and multi-armed and blobs and all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. I think one of the commander was like a Yuan T in Dungeons and Dragons. Like he was like had like a snake, like the chest down. He was snake bodied, but he had arms and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, Pelor says, I don't think we ever touched on different sorts of police. Traffic cops are far different from firearms officers who are different from dog handlers. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Canine units. I mean, you can incorporate so many things, right? Canine units could be your animal, tending rangers type characters. Like you said, there are SWAT officers or HRT, hostage rescue services. There are police officers that Omen says dancing traffic cops. Yeah, oh, that yes. Yes, there are dancing cops. Oh, wait, they're a common sight in the Philippines? Oh man, that is hilarious. Listen, if you have a really boring job to do, what better way to pass that time than to dance the night away? You know what I mean? So absolutely, which is kind of a reason why there are quite a number of mailmen that whistle and sing to themselves. But that is great. That is awesome. That is so sweet. Dancing cops. But hey, okay. Taking it a little bit seriously, there are public relations, right? Making sure the community is not only just protected, but you have a good relationship with them. So I can imagine there being public relations officers that have great connections to the community, and of course, with player characters having different capabilities, having great connections, performance skill, public speaking, having the proper etiquette skills based on the communities they go to, language skills, like we mentioned before, canine unit, hostage rescue. I know we're maybe getting further into first responder things where it comes to fire and medical, but there are different environments that people go into. When there are different environments, right? So there's deep diving because a car fell into the water, all the way to scaling or rappelling down buildings to enter into places with for hostage rescue. So you have that. There's also driving lots of different vehicles, whether they're police vehicles, motorcycles, helicopters. There's the idea of using different types of equipment, from crowd suppression or non-lethal weapons, whether they're shooting like tasers, gas, fire hoses, using ballistic shields, all the way to the far more dangerous things like pistols, automatic rifles, and even using explosives, as well as the explosive team, using explosives to enter into locations, and then the people who disarm bombs and such. So you have them as well as hostage negotiators, interrogators. I mean, you could go on and on and on. Yeah, Dead Man says dancing cops in the U.S. are fairly rare, but there are multiple guys. Yes, they're rare, but the ones that do exist out there are out there. And as a matter of fact, every once in a while, you'll get a viral video where the police are like dancing or having fun with like kids in a park or something or whatever, and that's really cool. That's cool. Pelor says you also get special constables here, volunteer part-time officers or with full powers, and PCSOs, police community support officers, kind of nicey. Yeah, and of course there's always the liaisons, right? The temporary, the air quotes temporary individuals that are brought into law enforcement. And so in the far future, you can have your alien representatives, you could have your xenophiles, your The individuals that are able to help the law enforcers go into high gravity, poisonous atmospheres, ice planets, the hackers. There's the idea of the criminal that's been recruited by law enforcement, whether it's a CI, your your boy, my brain just went. Your criminal informant, the person who used to be a criminal, but the police officer pulled them off the streets, and now they are one of the good guys, right? There's plenty of police procedural shows where one relative is a criminal. Very often, Italian mobster, Irish mob, or something like that here in the States. And the other member is a police officer, and they have a relationship and they work together every once in a while. Tesla Ranger brings up a ton of other people for character concepts: beat officer, defense attorney, detective, federal agent, forensic technician. Hell yeah. Forensics breaks down into its little component parts too, right? Blood, ballistics, that kind of thing. Let's move on with here. We have informants. Hell yeah. We have informants, medical examiners, which you can kind of add into like the forensic technician kind of thing as a portion of that. The prosecutors, SWAT officers, undercover agents. There's interdepartmental agencies as well. So one character could be from a military branch helping the police officer. There are corporate entities. There's the retired police officer, or the one who left the force to start their own business. Pillar-ist is basically a PCSO can't arrest people. They issue littering fines and stuff like that. And now, as you know, the beat cop, the PCSO, the public relations character it could seem like they're not effective, but they could be I'm going to be silly here, they could be the bards, the face, the individuals that talk their way out of things, as well as being an investigator. And hell, let's go a little further with that. How about the psychics that get brought in, or the writer, the novelist, the mystery writer that predicts or investigates things? They're like the armchair detective that gets brought in on a case temporarily. How about the actresses that do the ride-alongs, or the journalist could even be part of a law enforcement campaign that happens to be there because they've been assigned there by the city, or this is only going to be temporary for 6 months while we have these individuals ride along with the police officers. There may even be a politically assigned assessment officer. We're just going to see what your procedures are and what you do on the job. And oh, by the way, I'm an 8-year ex-military officer, so don't mind me. I'm just here to write notes and report back to my bosses. Pillar says, I know the US and UK have specialist foreign and domestic police, such as MI5, MI6, or FBI, CIA. Absolutely. And of course, there's always the unnamed individuals, or even corporate mercenaries hired by like a corporate interests as well. The police are investigating a business, and that business sends along their representative, and maybe due to money, power, influence, the police have to have this individual go along with them. Or it could be the police always have the private detectives. A family, friend, business hires a detective that happens to rub shoulders with the local police or something, as well. Yeah. And Pillar says, haha, there's Blade Runners are law enforcement. You can also have specialized law enforcement, meaning like, when I say specialized, I don't mean as a character type, but as the function in itself in this world. Deadman says MI6 was fictional, created for James Bond. And I think in the past the MI5 idea was actually, there were actually maybe up to 100 different M divisions that end up coalescing down into specific divisions. But people, anything from code breakers to people who run security firms. There was even a television show about two home break-in experts that would break into people's homes during the show and then show how to protect those homes. So you have a great laundry list of character types that could all work together, and there could have specialized functions. For example, Blade Runner, the Blade Runners were agents that were specifically deigned to hunt after these artificial humanoids, these replicants. So in this particular world, there could be people hunting after shapeshifters, mind controllers, rogue robots, some kind of external alien infestation. They could be doing quarantine because of diseases. So their purview, the player characters might have a purview that brings them into conflict with maybe local law enforcement. So if the players are like Space Ranger type of characters, or some kind of cyberpunk governmental agents that are coming across corporate agents, that where they start having that friction, that might be a great way to have a game as well, where the PCs, there's a nebulous authority where the PCs need to investigate, say, a corporate campus, but the corporate police are like, no, we own this habitat or on this asteroid, and you have no legal jurisdiction here. And the PCs might be an intergalactic law enforcement agency, and so you get the idea of maybe the PCs have to do a little bit of like finagling or skirting the law themselves to maybe apprehend a criminal that's hiding in a place where they know they can't be extradited or something like that. Along with the law enforcement is the idea of what kind of laws do they enforce. So, for example, are the PCs handing out parking tickets, or are the PCs working with, say, street level criminals because they need to go after the higher ups, right? There is the idea of you guys talking about the SIS and the MI6, yeah. But there's also the idea of and good morning, Rickard, by the way. I wasn't ignoring you. I saw you there. But there's the idea of which laws are they enforcing? Because there's really no such way to enforce every law 100%. So, for example, here in the States, we have the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and it's very common for them to flip people, arrest someone, get ready to charge them with a crime, tell them how bad their day is going to be, or you can work with us to get us higher up. So you can give us codes, information, wear a wire, vouch for me while I go undercover, and all that kind of stuff. Which I didn't even bring up undercover agents as well. Yeah, jaywalking. Yeah, and and sometimes, like, there are laws that, for the most part, aren't even enforced really, like jaywalking, and for an internal conflict, maybe the player characters have to deal with other NPC agents that are over enforcing, and the problems that come along where they're throwing a monkey wrench into the player characters' investigations. Yep, internal affairs is another thing. You could go even deeper with the Tom Cruise Jack Reacher character, who was a military police officer whose job was to go after other special forces agents, right? So internal affairs could be its own department where the PCs are going after the own law enforcers. And I feel like Internal affairs could be pretty broad, especially if you have different types of law enforcement on different planets, habitats, regions on Earth, undersea, floating in the air, orbiting in gas giant atmospheres and things, and having a intergalactic spread out society would mean that it would be pretty easy to lose track of the internal goings on, and so maybe the player characters are that limiting factor on people getting a little bit above their britches, you know, and they may have to come in and stop. I don't know, implementing technological mind control in the population because crime has gotten so bad in one particular region, or stopping interstellar piracy or something of that nature. As well as the fact that going into the mercenary thing, player characters might be hired to be part of a law enforcement group simply because they're from the region, whether socially they're from that particular region, and it's difficult for law enforcement to break in. So they may be part of a temporary group. And of course, we're talking role playing, so temporary could extend out for dozens of years, right? So that's also not a thing. And then the agents themselves, are they human? Are they alien? Are they cybernetic? Are they full robots? Are they existing both on a physical plane and a psionic plane, like a spirit? Are they technological? So do they only exist in a data format and they're carried around inside of the back of the head of someone's cortical stack? Or are they like Overwatch hackers or something of that nature? Which there are financial forensics into financials, as well as hacktivists, hacking into systems to enforce the law for digital technology and the control of technology as well. Yep. Pluralist says law enforcement sentient AI who go after hackers would be neat, as it's Friday. Of course. And maybe the PCs recruit an AI or multiple AI, or you can play those characters in the game, much like you can in Eclipse Phase and some of the other sci-fi games, like possibly Coriolis or Stars Without Number or whatever. Maybe those games are, which I'm not super familiar with, allow you to play a character that has no physical body, but they're able to inhabit and animate things like vehicles and weapons and security systems and things of that nature. So, and you could even have police patrolling virtual realities. A giant-sized Tolkien world could be a virtual reality with the player characters going into that world, or like Ready Player One. Start whipping you with a power cord. Yeah. Everyone's carrying a mouse. And whipping you with some cords and stuff. Yeah. Now, so we have ourselves a ton of character options, and we can go a little bit into what they can do, and then we'll move into the court system. But a lot of the law enforcement function could be small sections of the enforcement, such as hunting a criminal down, or taking down a organized crime, or collecting data where whether it's evidence of a crime committed, without the players following the entire path of what they need to do. So, for example, maybe the players are only obliged to detect the background radiation of a possible escaped convict that landed on an alien planet, and then once the players find out which planet they landed on, the true authorities step in and they're like, thanks for helping us out, but let the real people come in and solve this issue. And the player characters, they might feel some kind of way about that. They might get all in their feels and go, no, we're going to follow this through. So you could do little micro stories where, okay, first you have to track the criminal, then track where their headquarters is located, then track their communications, and like I said, background radiation, What are their financial holdings? Who are their connections? And so each step along the way could be its own adventure in and of itself. Yeah, I'm in charge now, peasant. Which, but isn't that a trope though? You know, that's here. Stateside shows are always about interdepartmental posturing and chest puffing. It's always like, you're just a beat cop, let the real detectives come in. Then the detectives come in, we're FBI, step aside. Beat cop and detectives, we're FBI. And then the politicians come in, whatever, FBI and detectives, I'm a politician, lick my feet. Kind of thing. And that keeps moving up and up and up, right? We're CIA, stay away from my confidential informant. I mean, how many television shows have we seen where the criminal smiles and says lawyer, and then the high-priced lawyer comes in, or the criminal's like, I'm not talking to anybody, I need to make a phone call. And then some high-ranking undercover or CIA agent or something walks in and goes, you need to let them go. And then the local cops are like, they killed somebody, they're running a criminal enterprise. Well, we're going after the bigger fish. Yeah. Yep. Tesla. Yep. Pillar says, we are the angels of the Lord, FBI. Out of the way. Out of the way. One side. We are the holy ones, right? Yep. Yeah. I'm the senator. Yep. Don't you know who I am? How many times, how many viral videos have we seen when the police pull over some judge or politician or something like that? I'll have your badge. Don't you know who I am? Yep. Yeah, this is not a game of who the fuck are you? The role-playing game, right? Rickard says, then John Wick shows up and tells the CIA the perp killed a dog and they step aside. How classic is that scene? What a great world building scene when the police officer shows up at John Wick's house. John Wick opens the door. The police officer looks past him and sees dead bodies all in the house. John Wick armed with a gun in his hand, and he's like, "Hey, John. Hey, how you doing? Neighbors reported noise. Yeah, I had some personal business to take care of." The cop's like, "Yeah, are you back?" "Yeah, you working again?" No, just taking care of some private business." "All right, John, I see everything's okay." You know what I mean? Like, what a great, yeah, working one last time. What a great scene that just encompassed, it told you so much with so little, which I think is an understated brilliance in that movie, where they don't explain things. They show you in the context, and you have to guess. Your brain fills in the gaps of the police officer that walks away from this armed individual with dead bodies, the gold coins and what their worth is, that kind of thing. So yeah, the 3 days from retirement trope. Yeah, the lethal weapon. I'm about to retire. Yeah, we're going to partner you with this other crazed, wild individual that's going to help you, in your, Riggs and Murtaugh, the classic buddy cop thing, which we haven't talked about the narrative part of this. Come on, you got to have some buddy copisms. Players who are constantly sniping at each other, but out of fun, not out of like going 0 to 60 and rolling dice at player versus player. But the whole idea of the one police officer that is super clean and likes things done by the book, and the other police officer that's got like mayonnaise and other sandwich droppings on their chin, and they always seem like they just woke up, and they're always pouring some kind of alcoholic beverage into their coffee, and there's a cigarette barely hanging off of their lip, and they've barely washed, they've just woken up. Yeah. Yeah, Rickard. Yeah, happy retirement. Here's your toilet bomb for 40 years of service. Yes, ridiculous toilet bombs, right? Yeah. You got to have some of that. You got to add just even if for no other reason than to throw some fun, alleviate some of the maybe the darker parts of a story, especially if your group really doesn't mind the going down the serial killer hunting, finding victims in horrifically tortured states of um, of discovery. You know what I mean? So yes, Poor is like, you're a loose cannon, Jackson. You destroyed 18 cars and blew up a shopping mall to catch a jaywalker. Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Let's not forget the interrogation room and bouncing people off the walls in interrogation rooms. Um, the kicking the ass of perps in public spaces. Yeah. Oh yeah. You gotta have some of that. So now let's flow away a little bit of that and let's get to some of the court cases, which yeah, oh yeah, the good cop, bad cop. Yeah, yeah, definitely the good cop, bad cop thing. Um, yeah, Plural's like, yeah, I think we're out of tropes. So now we get into the court case. Now, yes, in reality, and even in our public fiction, watching a court case may or may not be the most exciting thing in a tabletop RPG game, but the player characters could actually survive on circle the outside of that. So, for example, a court case, this is a great way to add a timing tension. So, of course, finding criminals is a timing tension. You've got 48 hours, you've got 24 hours. You've got 7 hours before the senator comes down here and shuts us down or whatever, or stops us from investigating the rich and powerful individual we know is a serial killer or whatever. But when a court case is going on and the big bad has been arrested and they're in court or something like that, there is the idea of or yet the hanging of an innocent scapegoat. Thank you. An innocent person is brought to trial and is accused of a crime. And if it isn't for the investigators to run at breakneck speeds to find the evidence that will exonerate this innocent person before they go to jail, that is a great way to, especially a very powerful criminal or person who has a lot of influence in a community with the city officials and things, might be railroading a bunch of innocent people, and it's the player characters that have to navigate not offending the people who are under the purview of, say, a powerful criminal enterprise, and at the same time gain evidence to exonerate people. And there's also the social part of it, right? There's a social part of it of you can't always go around slapping people in the face and saying you're under arrest. It may be saying the right things at the right time, so you get to use a lot of your social skills. Maybe there are players that need a lot of yeah, I see you, Pete. There's a lot of people who have to say the right things in the right way to get what they want, so that they can go back and backslap the bad guys in the face. You're in it, you're out, or whatever. Now, Puller says ejecting ejecting people from airlocks, which I wonder about the airlock ejection thing, right? It is a trope, but I don't know if we want dead bodies floating around at 18,000 miles an hour, possibly punching through space habitats. But that's a different story, right? Yep, John Wick 3 movie's out. Fourth is potentially coming out. Of course, and of course Keanu, with his the Keanu sense is in full motion now, appearing in a number of video games. Absolutely. You have a choice between the airlock or a fighter catapult. Shoo! Now, so player characters could be investigators helping a court case. If you really want to, if there's a player who really wants to be a lawyer or lawyer type character, this is a great way to give them some skill challenges. And again, we talked about skill challenges before. They don't have to be pass fail. They could be acquiring a number of successes against the other person. The first to get 3, 5, 7 successes wins. It could be successes against time. So each day of the court case, and the court case lasts for 12 days, the first person to get the highest number of successes in those 12 days wins. It could be, and the third part could be impressing the jury and judges, or whatever judgmental council, triumvirate, or whatever AI system there is, which means that it could be you against the defense, or maybe you are the defense against the prosecutors, or whatever, what have you, and you have to impress this third party. And so your successes are based on impressing the third party, and maybe you can snipe at the other person's successes by taking them down, and you can gain certain boons or advantages or disadvantages by collecting certain types of information. For example, convincing a witness to get on a stand, and that witness wants to sneak across a border, never to be seen again. So you have to hunt that person down, convince them to come with you, and you can't beat their ass and drag them back to prison. You have back to court. You have to convince them, bring them back to court, save their life, because the criminal wants to kill them. Of course, that's a trope, and that kind of thing. So, for me, I think there's stackable social combat exploration that you can really do in a law enforcement styled game in the modern day to far future. You guys are so bad. Tesla's like, human bodies burn up in atmosphere. Don't ask me how I know that. Oh, no. I truly believe that the dead bodies in the atmosphere would burn up. I'm just thinking of the typical, like, we're in deep space, we're just going to dump a dead body out in the deep space in zero gravity. And it's like, no offense to the dead in space, but burning up in the atmosphere, recycling, I think that would end up becoming far more common than the solid aluminum steel alloy coffin that gets dumped out into space in the airlock and everyone's sad. And I'm thinking, you do realize that's a fast moving bullet you just dumped out in space, because of relative speeds, right? There's to the spacecraft, it looks like the coffin is spinning in space, moving very lazily, but actually both the spacecraft and the dead body are moving at hyper relativistic speeds, probably, tying people behind starship engines. Oh, just put them, you put them in a spacesuit, you tie them out there, and then you just draw, if they don't answer the questions, you just draw them in a little bit closer with a cable, closer to the engines, getting irradiated with like ionized gamma radiation as their flesh peels from their skins. Yeah, yep. The smell of burnt pork. Damn. Oh man, keel hauling in space. Hell yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And of course you have, hey, remember Altered Carbon on Netflix? At least Netflix here in the States, where you have the virtual reality torture room, and you could break people's bones, burn them up, slice up their body, and just reset it and bring them right back to life again to do it all over again. There's virtual reality interrogations and stuff. So hell yeah. So okay, so we do have the court cases. You could play around with court cases, so they don't necessarily need to be a judge, a jury of your peers, and people sitting down. Like I said, it could be AIs, it could be triumvirates. They could have some kind of really strange, alien, complex form of legal system as well. And then punishment. Let's flow into ourselves some punishment. Yeah, as punishment, you have to get from airlock 1 to airlock 2 without a spacesuit. Ooh, freezing, getting. We know there is no explosive decompression. It's mostly freezing. but still, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Um, if you're really bad, someone will stand by airlock 2 with a broom. Just push you away. Sorry, push. Oh, I hardcore space test for hardcore space marines. Yeah, I think that would definitely be a sport. Um, hell, jumping between spinning habs and all that kind of stuff. I definitely think that would be a like a test of, I say manhood, but a test of endurance, whether it's in training and stuff like that. Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Um, uh, hell, criminals. You can't join our criminal organization unless you leap from here to here, to prove your bravery or something like that. Yep. Teenagers. Hell yeah. Now, so which you guys have already got me thinking about a whole nother week's subject, with ending on people doing things against society's norms. But anyway, that's just the soup in my brain. So now let's get into the penal system. We've got like 10-15 minutes on the end here. So player characters in penal systems. Player characters could be, since we are let's focus on the law enforcement side of it. So hell yeah. Put your hands on the yellow circles. I don't know if anyone knows that reference from the Fifth Element, right? Where the police come into the, I don't know, mile high projects or whatever, and the people are living in their little coffin hovels, and the police have the X-ray machines, and they tell everybody to put their hands on the yellow circles. Yeah, yeah. Negative. I'm a meat popsicle. Yep. Ooh, teenager sleeved in vacuum pod morphs. I like that, dead man. I like that a lot. Using and abusing those morphs. Those wow. Yeah, it's got me thinking. It's got me thinking about that quite a bit. Yeah, and all right, so we do have the penal system. I don't want to go back into enforcing things like or you guys have got me thinking about drugs and in the concerning law enforcement and prostitution and gambling and racketeering, things that are illegal one place but are socially illegal and border on the idea of infringing on people's rights to do what they want to do, much like Prohibition era 1920s, where the serving of alcohol was illegal. And so you do have this idea that, like I brought up before, where chocolate might be hideously illegal in one space habitat, maybe due to some kind of viral infection, but in another place, it's a very minor treat that people like to purchase at your local store, right? So, but when we come into our prisons, like Pelora says, prison ships warping around the place. We definitely have tons of prison ideas. Prisons underwater, prisons floating on oceans, prisons stuck on ice planets, prisons in warp extra dimensional spaces, prison planets, habitats that have been cordoned off, accidental prisons, places that become prisons because the rest of society says, nah, just wall the place off and dump people there and forget about them. Pelora says there's the prison ship in StarCraft 2 called the Moros. Tesla Ranger says maybe the population is all sentient canines and they can't digest chocolate. Oh, everyone's has the Hershey squirts. Yeah, and it's all your fault for bringing in tons of chocolate. Which brings up the idea of smuggling for criminals. I know I'm segueing, but you know, smugglers could be smuggling needed medication from one place to another, even though the law says that the corporate entities there control the dissemination of medication to a particular part of the population, right? So you can have both criminals and law enforcement part of something, or even the player characters feeling dismayed at having to enforce a law they don't agree with, or working as, like, say, intergalactic space rangers, knowing that different regions they go into enforce the law in different manner. And so the space ranger PCs might be imprisoning people or part of, like, correctional officers because people have broken the law in ways such as importing medication, or disrupting the mental control that goes on the back of the heads of all the people that work in this mining facility, because the chips stuck in the back of their head make them feel good about working 18-hour days. I love to work for no pay. And maybe there are hackers that have been trying to break this so that they can unionize, but the corporate entity is like, no, these people work for us. The chips in the back of their head are our property, thereby making these individuals our property. That kind of thing. Yeah, Omen says arresting homeless people for homelessness, which was an issue here for quite a while. We have that a lot. I mean, that's an ongoing issue about like things like homelessness, prostitution, drugs. Many places are legalizing the use and sale of marijuana, here. And so some laws are social, and even though they may have a tangential, they skirt the criminality, the dangerous criminality. Some people feel like legalizing things will reduce the criminality. Others may feel that certain things that are legal today should become illegal, so on and so forth, right? Pillar says we have our prison islands and stuff where people can't escape because of surrounding conditions. Prison ships serve this, but you could also have a toxic atmosphere, high gravity. Hell yeah, where inside the prison, you can walk around, talk, people, it's a regular prison, but escaping the exterior of the prison is your problem, especially like you said, high gravity, a toxic atmosphere. It's floating in a gas giant. So if you escape, how the hell do you get off of it? In deep pressure under an ocean, in the extra dimensional space of a wormhole, orbiting around a black hole, a whole prison planet, and the only way you can get off is to finagle your way onto one of those orbiting starships that just drops bricks of people onto the planet and leave, without landing on the planetary surface, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the end, what was one? The idea of a prison planet in the subterranean surface of a world like Mercury, but spun faster. So when the sun comes up, it blasts the place into molten lava. When the sun goes down, it freezes into an icy block, and it happens continuously, whatever period of time the place spins, right? So yeah, not only do you need to escape, a la Vin Diesel in one of the Pitch Black movies, but you also have to be able to survive on the surface of the planet. Yeah. Deadman says in Warhammer 40K, had the black ships traveling around the galaxy collecting all the psychers to isolate them from people so they can be sacrificed later to the Golden Throne to power the warp beacon so the navigators can orient their ships. Isn't that a mouthful? I wish I knew more about Warhammer 40K. I'm only familiar with the expensive ass miniatures part of the game, and I know Warhammer 40K has an extensive background that I have no familiarity with. I mean, I know what 40K is, but I mean, as far as like learning all the factions and their histories and stuff, and it's kind of like there's a meta timeline throughout the game, and yeah, I wish, yeah, that's a deep dive in and of itself. Oh, it kind of dystopian? I think you're being a little kind there. Omen says, by the way, need to be at work soon. So if I suddenly disappear, that's why. Oh, you're perfectly fine, dude. Thank you very much. And and thanks for bringing the energy from all the way in the Philippines. We in the States could use a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's sad and awesome at the same time. I definitely agree. But player characters acting as correctional officers as well, maybe they are like more like they could also be like zookeepers. Oh, thank you, Dead Man. Chronicles of Riddick was on Hellion Prime. Yeah, the player characters might not just be, you know, beating the ass of, say, just regular criminals, but they could also be like the gatekeepers of like monsters and beasts and technology going out of control. So people could have like strange mutations, and the player characters are like guardians of this place where certain people are released, other creatures are brought in. When I say creatures, these could be, they could be the protectors or guardians or correctional officers of like intergalactic serial killers, right? An alien species that is nothing but a virus, or alien species that are like invasion of the body snatchers. You know, think of a prison that it imprisons all of the most dangerous aliens in your favorite intellectual properties, right? There's a rancor in one place, and there's a xenomorph in another cell, and there's a predators in another cell or something. And like I said, they don't have to be a cell. The player characters might literally be on a prison continent, planet, habitat. So it's not just that these things are trapped inside of a cage, but they could be roaming free. The player character's job is to make sure they don't roam free off of this world or what have you. So it could be a combination: investigation, law enforcement slash correctional officer, where the player characters are essentially the filter from the rest of society while they watch people on this other place. They could also, the player characters could also be on protective details or bodyguard details as well, so that they are on the edges of the galaxy, making sure something doesn't invade the rest of society. Or the player characters could be on their own in a frontier styled world where they are judge, jury, and executioner, much like the classic Western sheriff or marshal or bounty hunter, where they understand what their job function is. They just have no resources to back it up. And it's all about working with the local society as well as confronting a lawless regime, you know? Oh, all right, Omen, my students in Korea are waiting. Wow, you're going to have to give us more information later, but we're going to have to, you're going to have to tell me more about that. So that, I think that's awesome. But yeah, hell yeah, man. Let's give us some more information on that later on. Pelora says, what's the film? Oh, he's already gone. What's the film with the woman in a water box and they have to go inside? This, yeah, it's The Cell with Jennifer Lopez. You could have an investigative process that digs into people's heads. I hear you, Invisible Sun. And hell yeah, why does investigation doesn't need to be physical? It could be psychological, going into the dreamscape of people's minds, much like Inception. Right? Inception was a heist movie, criminals going into someone's mind to get this person to think a different way. There could also be dream police, much like an old 80s movie that I think could be remade called Dreamscape, where a dream criminal was trying to get the president to be so scared that he was going to press the button for nuclear war, and dream heroes went into the same dreams of the president to defend the president against this individual. So I could see that people going in. The plot of The Cell was a detective and a child psychologist go into the brain of a serial killer to find the whereabouts of one of their victims. And inside the mind of the serial killer is the innocent, what she sees is the innocent child, and the detective trying to save her, to remove her out of the brain, the trauma of the serial killer. So Plur says, yeah, that was Dreamscape. It's an old movie. It does not stand up today. From what I can remember, the effects and stuff would not stand up today. But the idea is pretty cool. There's also, let's think of the movie, I believe it's either called What Dreams May Come or Where Dreams May Come. I think it's What Dreams May Come, with Robin Williams. And that movie has to do with death. If you are someone who is a fan of or would like to do a game where the player characters, Plur says, them feels though. Yeah. Something pretty dark and depressing. Honestly, the movie deals with child death and suicide. Although there is hope at the end of the movie, it deals with a main character who is exploring the land of the dead to find his children and his wife who has committed suicide because of the death of their children. And she's going to hell because she's committed suicide. And he refuses to accept that and go like a Dante's Inferno done modern wise. The effects in that movie, I think, hold up. I think it's excellent. And it's What Dreams May Come. Yeah, and it is an excellent movie. For a non-comedic Robin Williams, he does an excellent job with it. It is another Cuba Gooding movie, Oscar-winning Cuba Gooding, who can't seem to get a job anymore, or rarely get a job or whatever. But yes, there are lots of things you can pull from that in terms of, because even in the far future, who's to say that there aren't machines like virtual reality going into someone's dreams, or being able to cross over into the world of the undead to bring that person back, or hell, just to allow that person's spirit to move on, would be an excellent gaming thing. And if you want to make it modern day, you could incorporate that into some kind of Call of Cthulhu, where the players are like combination gun-toting detectives and people who work for like the Catholic Church or Constantine, where you're incorporating magic into modern society and stuff. So yeah, law enforcers that keep the evil forces at bay, like Men in Black is sci-fi. There could be like a Constantine, which is more arcane, and you could even do a psionic kind of thing with dreams and such, and even combine all three together. That there are horrors in the world that people don't know about, and using this in like a Delta Green kind of setting where the players know the horrors that exist out there in the world, or they're woken up to it, or each player character has seen things that they should not see, and you can't unblink, and they are the ones doing that. Blur says that scene with the paint near the beginning, though, the mess, that is hell for me. the messy oil painting slop. I hear you, because you're just like, it's getting under my fingernails. I'll never get it off of me. But honestly, it is, that movie is well created, well directed. I have to give it thumbs up on that. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me and letting me go off on this Spooktober weekend over at Fantasy Grounds College, engaging in the games. And if you want to know more information, please click the links for them. This is, and I know I'm going to give out wrong information, so I apologize for this, but essentially for those who either want to find out about Fantasy Grounds or already have a membership in Fantasy Grounds, that this weekend opens up Fantasy Grounds for people who have a the lower level membership to open it up to the ultimate membership, if I'm not mistaken. You can find more information and correct me and my inability to disseminate that information to you in a sensible manner this weekend, October 25th, 26th, and 27th for 24 hours. Join in the game over there. One of these days, I'll be there as well. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Next week, excuse me. Of course, next week is Halloween. So Des, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you there. Des, what's going on there? Next week will be Halloween, and we're going to do the theme of All Hallows Eve all week long. And we're going to take some of the tropes, some of the history. I'm actually going to do some research, and we're going to go for there. So thank you very much for spending your time with me. I know your time is very valuable. I hope you're able to leave with a little bit of change in your pocket.